All right. It's another episode of the RSL Random Fan Podcast and talking with Simon Costin. I get that right, Ian?
Yes, spot on.
And why don't you remind people, I know you as a Chelsea fan and a Nashville fan, tell them, everyone where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my Chelsea podcast is called Chelsea Against the World. You can follow us on our social media accounts at CATW Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube as well. I also run an account called the Real Football USA, which is talking about all things soccer and football related for primarily US audience. I'm based in Nashville, Tennessee, so very invested in trying to grow the game here in the US, and my English perspective hopefully is quite useful for people.
Yeah, I'm always enamored with it because I want to go the other way. I'm Anglophile. I want to head over there and see what's happening over there. So I appreciate having the opportunity to chat with you. We're talking about the World Cup. You had a little bit better go than we did, but you probably took it a lot harder than we did. But let's start from the end and work our way back. What are your thoughts on the final, and why was it the worst final we've had in a very, very long time? Or do you disagree with that?
There's quite a lot to unpack in that for that first question. First of all, thanks again for having me on. I really enjoyed the conversation last time I was on. So yeah, thrilled to be back on another episode. The final, it was the worst World Cup final I've ever seen, and there is one team to blame for that, and that is Argentina. Staggering. I thought Spain would win comfortably. I know 1-0 isn't a comfortable scoreline, but if you look at the statistics of the game, if you watch the game, there was only one team that was going to win that game, and only one team that deserved to win that game. And Argentina tried to drag it down into a completely ridiculous spectacle in the same way that they did in the first half an hour, I think, against England in the semi-final. But it just exposed what I thought about Argentina all the way through this tournament, that you take Lionel Messi out of that team and it's a very, very average football team with some of the most disgraceful football players in the world playing in that team that really did their best to tarnish the occasion and tarnish Spain's victory as well with all the scenes afterwards. But I will say that the sport won because Spain won. Because if that Argentina had won that tournament, it would have been vindication for some of the conspiracy theories, I guess, about FIFA assisting Argentina to win this tournament at all costs, and the vindication for them playing in that disgraceful manner. And it's nothing new for Argentina. If you wind the clock back, this is kind of, as a footballing nation, this is how they play. It's like a gang. Genuinely, it's like a gang. And I'm just very, very relieved. And Spain winning made me feel a lot bit better, well, quite a lot better about what happened to England in the semi-final, I think. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I thought this World Cup, especially sticking to Argentina, I think it kind of took a little bit of the bloom off the rose for fans that were really enamored with Lionel Messi getting that first World Cup victory in 2022. And for me, like I said, I'm a convert, and I am learning more and more and kind of paying a lot more attention to the international game the last little while. But I thought it was really damaging to the love that Lionel Messi has, especially here in the United States with him playing in Major League Soccer. I don't know how it will damage that. Probably not a lot, but I think it kind of took the rose-colored glasses off a lot of fans and say, hey, you know what? This was a really, really, really poor performance, not only on the pitch but off the pitch. And I was really disillusioned. I get that's how they want to play, and I'm not necessarily against all of the dark arts, but I don't appreciate it when teams like that are allowed to get away with it because that's just how they play. You see it in other sports. Basketball might be one of the better comparisons when you have a defensive minded team. They just don't get a foul is different. It's a different level because that's just the way they play. So if we called all the fouls, there'd be four guys on the pitch by the end of the game instead of treating the game with a little bit more respect and um, calling the fouls when it's a foul. So I think you're absolutely right. I think the game won, the soccer won, football won, uh, and it would have been pretty devastating, I think, in a lot of people's eyes if Argentina had won, especially the way they did it and how just ugly, ugly it was.
Yeah, it's beyond that, I think, in terms of the way they just cheat. It's cheating. Like, there's no bones about it. That is what it is. Like, everything about it, if you look back throughout the tournament, they just, the level of histrionics, the level of niggling fouls, like tiny, just underhand tactics. And also, like, Enzo Fernandez, going back to the semi final, punched Elliot Anderson in the head in the first few minutes of that game. Paredes, who was sent off after the game had finished, where he genuinely punched Gavi in the face after the final whistle, should have been sent off about 3 times during the final. Enzo Fernandez getting a red card. It's very difficult to watch, and it's interesting actually because like I'm a Chelsea fan, and Chelsea have had a historic rivalry with Barcelona over the last 20 or so years. So I don't like Lionel Messi. I never have. But it's born out of competitive rivalry. And in 2022, when Argentina were playing France in the final, I didn't really care who won because I was like, both these teams I don't really like. But I was like, I can appreciate Messi as a footballer, the being the greatest of all time, and it's not even in the conversation in my eyes. Like the closest to him is Maradona, in my view. Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't even enter the same conversation as him, in my opinion. And I kind of wanted him to win just so it ended that debate. Really, that was really it. And the final in 2022 was a thrilling occasion. Mbappe at the top getting a hat trick and Messi crowning it off. And I just thought to myself, okay, that's great, but that this time, this has been it's felt more sinister, and that's not just for my English bias. But there's obviously a big history between England and Argentina, which I presume we'll go to in some detail later on it today. But it's disgusting the way they played against Spain in particular. Like it was bad against England, but it hit another level yesterday, and that's what happens when you've got a team that is so superior to the other one. And I have absolutely no qualms at all with a team playing defensive if you're up against that force that is Spain. But there's something where they did. What it was the 114th minute where they had their first shot on goal. They had no interest in trying to win that game in normal or extra time. It was to try and drag it to penalties and do it by any means necessary. And it was just, yeah, it was a hard watch. It was a real hard watch, actually.
Yeah, I did not appreciate it. I thought I was very glad Spain won. I was hoping for a 4-1 drubbing or something along those lines. I really was. I thought that Argentina would finally meet their match and their tactics wouldn't pay off. I'm just like everybody else or a lot of people. I love a good conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
They're fun to think about. And I don't know that I thought a lot about it. I don't know that um, there was a huge, people pulling levers in the back, but it is interesting if you look at the facts. They did get the really good draw. They had one of the easiest, if not the easiest, road to the final then over compared to every other team. They One stat I saw was the number of fouls that a team needs to commit before they get a yellow card, and I think it was Argentina. I think maybe Spain was up there too, but they have to foul 17 times before the refs pull out a card, compared to England, where it was like 5 or 6 fouls in there.
Yeah.
Just like in the semifinals, like was Gordon that got a quick
Yeah.
yellow, and it's just like that's the kind of stuff that really annoys me. All fans want is for it to be fair, and I think with the way the game was called for Argentina because of the way they play, The refs just kind of, I don't know if it's intentional as much as it is subconscious. It's just like, oh, that's just how they play. They're rough and tumble. And so they just kind of go with it instead
Yeah.
of instead of just pulling out that early card. Like, I don't know how that's not a red card. I don't know how it's not reviewed um, in the England semifinal or with the punch. I mean, that's a red card all day long, everywhere.
In the
And
UFC, you're not allowed to do that.
yeah,
In
yeah,
boxing, that would be a cheap shot. You would get disqualified.
yeah, no rabbit punches allowed. So yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I think for the most part, I would have loved to have seen Argentina get knocked out earlier. I think we deserved. I think the World Cup and the fans deserved a better final. We deserved a England, Spain final that was 4-2, 4-3, something along those lines, where both teams come out and play some football. Not, or, a France, England,
Yeah.
or, anyone else but Argentina in the way that they choose. And I think there's all this stuff. I mean, Argentina did a great job, like I said, knocking the bloom off the rose and really exposing themselves and a lot of their fans. I mean, I know a lot of Argentina fans that are wonderful people, but they just kind of expose themselves to being sore losers and sore winners, which is even
Yeah.
worse.
And that is a thing, actually. I've met lots of Argentinian people across the world, and they're lovely. When it comes to football or soccer, it turns it into this kind of group think a little bit. And I was going back to your point about the referees, whether it's intentional or subconscious, and it really reminded me of the Premier League when Sir Alex Ferguson was manager of Manchester United. That I don't think it was corrupt. I don't think there was any kind of vested interest or anything like that. But the magnitude of the moments, he would get inside the referees' heads after the game with comments and those kind of things. And I think it's the same with Messi's influence in global football because he is the superstar. He is the greatest player for many people that they've ever seen. He has a religious like following, not just in Argentina, but went out to a bar to watch the first few minutes of the final before it got too hot in Nashville yesterday. And there are just hundreds and hundreds of Argentina Messi shirts, and I think there was probably 1% of them that were from Argentina. The rest are from America, and like that's the influence he has. And I think the Argentina team plays into it because they know that they've got the most influential figure in world football playing for them and they can fight for him. And also, the referees are in a difficult position as well in a game like that, where you don't want to lose control of it too early. You don't want to dish out yellow cards in the first few minutes that might stop the kind of competitive element of the game. But there's a big difference between cynical fouling and cheating. And this is the point: is actually in the England game, Argentina's tactics deserved at least one red card, probably lots more yellows than it came. And then yesterday, they deserved the referee needed to get the yellow cards out earlier. Really, it's tarnished. I think if I don't think if it's I don't think that it's Argentina in particular has tarnished the tournament for me. But if they'd won, it would have done because I think it would have given people a lot of ammunition to drive into those conspiracy theories. And I don't really believe in them myself until like as you said, when you start seeing the stats about the fouling and the lack of yellow cards for certain teams compared to others, it adds fuel to the fire and gives people reasons to start questioning things, right? So, yeah, thank goodness they won.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I'm sure there's a lot of people, I've seen them online as well, that, Argentina, after the fifth minute, I saw somebody saying, after the fifth minute, we knew the rep wasn't on our side. And I'm just like, what game did you watch? But,
Yeah.
that's why we watch sport because it's so wonderful. And I think, admittedly, um, you being an Englishman, and I've admitted that I am not an Argentina fan, so we
Yeah.
do have a bias. So, but at the same time, it's well earned from the way they performed. It was just truly an atrocious performance during the game, after the game by Argentina, and they deserve every last complaints and our righteous indignation for the way they almost ruined the World Cup for us.
Here, here.
So, all right, so let's congratulations to Spain. I think they did prove they were the best club. I mean, even with the extra game, they only gave up one goal,
Mhm.
and they just kind of they never trailed in any game. Of course, they didn't. There was not a lot of scoring to go on, but they were just the best club. I think they deserved a better opponent. And like I said, I thought if England in the final against Spain would have been absolutely phenomenal. I don't know if the result would be any different, but the game would
No.
have been much more enjoyable to watch. So I feel for you there very, very much, Simon. Well, let's.
Yeah.
What about we kind of. I don't know if there's anything else that we could. Oh well, let's talk about one thing that happened during the game, the halftime. What are your thoughts? I've heard of a lot of people. I kind of enjoyed it, but as an American, I'm kind of used to that kind of stuff at halftime. I'd be absolutely fine without it, but what can we do? But what were your thoughts? Do you hope that kind of stuff? I hope the breaks, unless it's hot and the halftime goes away. I was not a fan of all that.
I don't know. It was all quite surreal watching it, to be honest, because I think the problem is with doing something like that, it takes the attention off the game in my eyes. And soccer is a sport that thrives on momentum. Too many breaks ruins the momentum. And honestly, the nature of the halftime show, I thought the stadium was quite quiet anyway, because I think the tickets were so expensive that it priced many real supporters out of it. And it came back from the break, and I was just like, I'm not really interested in this. And I genuinely think the clamour and the nature that soccer entices people into it, especially in America, is because it is so different to the other sports. There aren't a relentless amount of breaks. There's not a relentless amount of commercials, and I feel that was a little bit, it diluted it a little bit. And the World Cup final is the pinnacle of the sport. It's the most watched game around the world. Over 1 billion people watch it, and I had no interest in watching Madonna, Justin Bieber, and whoever else was in it. And I just I think it angered a lot of people who were not based in America because it's so culturally
Shocking.
different. Yeah, it's just a completely different experience. And you could say, and that's the thing is like I have no problem with it with the Super Bowl. That's part of Super Bowl heritage. Like the halftime show is a massive thing here. People go to watch soccer and football matches in the World Cup for the experience of the game and the sport, not celebrities and not pop stars prancing around with these ridiculous signs where literally they were feeding in crowd noise as well. And I just thought it was a completely ridiculous spectacle. But that's me. We talked about this last time. English people let the smallest things bother them to such an extent, and that you can add that to the list. Um, but it
Yeah.
was you know what though, it's harmless. I think that's the thing, it's harmless. And if the people in the stadium in America enjoyed it, then good for them. So hopefully it won't happen again, but we'll see.
We shall see. I doubt. The next one is over in Spain, Portugal.
Mhm.
Yeah, I sincerely doubt they do any kind of halftime.
Yeah, I would say
They
that's
may
probably
they
likely.
may shorten halftime just to spite us, right?
Yeah.
Just to. So let's talk about how about just the games in general. What stood out for you? What is there a team that came out of nowhere? The obvious in Cape Verde. But what were your thoughts on the expanded tournament? All of that.
Loved it. Honestly, I think if you take some of the controversy out of it, some of the politics, then take Argentina out of it. I think you could make the argument it was the greatest World Cup of all time. I think the nature of the games, some of the quality performances, The one weekend that sticks out to me for numerous reasons was the Cape Verde versus Argentina game on the I think it was on the Friday or the Saturday night, and then England versus Mexico in the Azteca on the Sunday night. I think that could be the greatest weekend of football that I've ever seen. Cape Verde should have beaten Argentina. They should have
Yes.
beaten Argentina. Argentina rode their luck, and the second equaliser in extra time was one of the great World Cup goals. That team was exceptional. They only lost to one. Yeah, they didn't lose to Spain or Argentina in 90 minutes. The only team to stop Spain winning in the World Cup. They are the story of this tournament. I think when everyone pulls back from it, I think the feelings that everyone had, literally the whole world was cheering them on all the time. And the Mexico England game and the Azteca will live in my memory as one of my favourite England memories of all time. I think it was just that game had literally everything, and the contrast to the way that the Mexican fans and players dealt with losing compared to Argentina couldn't have been any more different. I know some people who were in the Azteca for the game, and they were all celebrate. The Mexican fans were celebrating with the English fans afterwards, and it just reminded me that what this sport can do for people. And I just it's going to be a bit of a withdrawal coming out of no World Cup action. And I just think I loved the expanded tournament. I loved seeing nations compete who we hadn't really seen before, and the opportunity and just seeing their fans celebrate as well. It's just this is what it's all about. It's about excitement and joy. And the fact that Argentina didn't win gave me some joy by the end of it as well. Um, but yeah, what a tournament. I loved every second of it. It's been fantastic.
Yeah, the Cape Verde game against Argentina, that last play before penalty kicks, where I guess they were good. Did they go to penalty kicks or did
No, that went. They
Argentina?
won. Argentina won 3-2 in extra time. Yeah,
Yeah, because they could have tied it up there with they got a foul on the very last play that wasn't called. That
yeah.
kind of really angered me. But I loved their story. Their 40-year-old uh, keeper, all of that, and I didn't mind the expanded tournament as much as I thought I would. And not that I'm a purist by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't necessarily like change for change, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But I thought that those those countries that were like the African countries, I think what are 10 countries that qualified, and
Hmm.
9 of them made it to the knockout round. They didn't go very far, but 9 out of the 10, which was better than almost any other confederation, which was surprising. I don't think I'll ever forget DR Congo
Yeah,
and their fan. Uh, and just what that stands for. I thought that was very powerful for me. The fan that stands for Lumumba, the prime minister or the president that was assassinated. That was fascinating story. I love those kind of stories that pop up during events like this. And with the World Cup, I mean, it is the greatest sporting event on earth, you know. And I say that in all seriousness. I mean, I don't know if there's anything that compares. I was thinking about this because I think it's even better than the Olympics. The Olympics are fantastic. They bring people together and countries together, but it's still the Olympics are, who can win the most golds. And at least from a cynical American point of view, that's the competition, who's going to win the
hmm
most. But it is fun to see the countries come together. But I think this really brings out just another level above the Olympics for me. What do you think?
100%. I think it's the pinnacle of sport. I think it means more than anything else. Like I kind of touched upon this in the last episode I was with you guys that I'm Chelsea obsessive, but it really takes a back step. Like I'm all the nature of England getting knocked out of this tournament hit me harder than anything Chelsea has happened before. And it means so much. You are like everyone wants to. your team. Like everyone wants their team to win here. Like it produced a level of patriotism that I don't think anything else has. I'm not like overtly patriotic towards being English, but like I'm not a a flag waving kind of person. But when it comes to this tournament, I'm very proud and it makes me feel good about the country that I was born in. And I was really proud of the way that most Americans were like gathering around their team as well. It was like as a US citizen now, that meant quite a lot to me that the sport that I love was taking a front step for a change. And yeah, to me, it means more than anything else. Like the Olympics is a wonderful spectacle, but you're also playing. These are the best athletes in the world, in my view. You've got the best football players from every country competing at the top level against each other, and the vast majority of those superstars came out in this tournament flying, and that is something that I don't think you see anywhere else in any other sport. And yeah, I would love England to win it again. I really would love England to win it again. Really hurts still. It's like touching a nerve a little bit thinking about it. That when I was watching Spain versus Argentina yesterday, I was just like, really, England should be here. Really
They
should be
should have.
here.
Is it so? Since you don't want to let it go, let me ask you this about the England. Was it just Tuchel kind of um, not attacking and trying to park the bus, or what happened?
This is hard for me to say because I was a big Thomas Tuchel fan up until this game. I think there's a combination of things that happened here. After we took the lead against them and Anthony Gordon scored, I think Argentina's manager made some very smart tactical changes and it pushed England back. The problem was Tuchel's response at the last hydration break. I think you expect after you score to ride, especially with the Argentina's momentum and the players that they've got at disposal, they're going to come at you. I don't think that's an unreasonable thing to expect whatsoever. But the way that he just capitulated and brought on defenders and tried to hold out against the greatest player that's ever played the game and decided to give him all the room of the Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta to just pick passes to cross. It was a matter of time before they took that they pulled it back, and it's a catastrophe that Thomas Tuchel, if he was English, would live with him for the rest of his life. But because he's not English, it's a job to him. I think that's how you see it now, and he messed up more than I ever thought he was capable of doing. And yeah, honestly, I sat on this for quite a while since last Wednesday, and I think it was a sackable offence that second half because he was brought in to replace Southgate, who was accused of doing everything that he did. Southgate never made substitutions like Tuchel did. Bringing on, we had 7 defenders on the pitch by the end of it, with three players who can attack with Morgan Rogers, Jude Bellingham, and Harry Kane, who were all gassed. And there was no outball. Like what, 2 completed passes in the last half an hour? That's beyond reprehensible. And I think Tuchel buckled under the pressure. And yeah, so to answer your question in a short way, yes, I blame Thomas Tuchel. There was other factors in tow, but he is the main person to blame, I think.
Yeah, it's too bad because if we watch the final, Spain just had Argentina under pressure the whole time, and they just kept the
I think
pressure
England would
up.
have given them a better game. I
Oh,
think they would. I think
absolutely.
Spain would have still won. I think Spain were that good, but I think England would have given them a better game. And I think it's disappointing that we paid that Argentina side that showed up yesterday that much respect, which is and for a bunch of players besides Messi who deserve zero respect on every level, especially Enzo Fernandez. Get him out of Chelsea, please. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, we aren't going to get too far away from that game, but what I was talking with my friends and like I wouldn't want to be an Argentina player if I played my club games in England, right? For the way they treated their actions, I think they've got some petty retribution headed their way. I don't know how it is over there. I mean, but if the way they treated the way they reacted after their victory and just how they played. If I was a fellow, if I was somebody that played in the Premier League against them and I was from England, they would catch some flack. I don't know if an elbow or what, but they would
I
catch
think
something from me.
they are going to find life extremely difficult to return into their English clubs. Genuinely, they are. And I'm not sure how much your listeners are aware of some of the history that goes on. It's not just related to soccer; it's beyond that.
The
And
Falklands.
yeah, the Falklands War, and that's the whole thing. It's like that's not that far removed from the present, really. A lot of Argentinians, people fought in that war. A lot of people died in that war, and it came from an Argentinian invasion of British land. Whether you think that was correct or not, that is the fact. And there were Argentine players who were waving signs about the Falklands to English fans after the game, and I have a problem with it. Like, I've got no problem with people disliking England whatsoever. You are free to hate us as much as you want if you want to. It's all good. But to play your club football where you earn a fortune and to hate the people, which is essentially what they were like signifying with that sign, especially about the Falklands afterwards. I think they're going to find it very difficult. I think they're going to find it very difficult to go back to their clubs. The away fans, or when they go play away from their home grounds, they're going to be met with some vitriol. And this is the whole point, actually, that a lot of English Chelsea fans, I'm just talking for an example here because I know a lot of them, do not want Enzo Fernandez back at Chelsea. They do not want Enzo Fernandez back at Chelsea. This is a player that we signed for over £100 million who has been good for Chelsea. They do not want him back after the way he's behaved. And I think that's going to be a tough situation that a lot of these Argentinian players who play in England are going to find when they go back, which is, I don't necessarily agree with it, but there's consequences to your actions essentially. So it's like, well, you can't really have both worlds. You can't play the populist to your own supporters and say something that's very, very offensive to a lot of people and not expect repercussions to it. And yeah, it's a shame. I don't like seeing politics in any aspect of the game whatsoever. And to drag that game, which is highly volatile already, to that level, makes you quite disappointed, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Well, let's talk about the other country that we both love, the United States. We haven't talked about that because of
Yeah.
all the other stuff, but let's talk about the U.S. and their World Cup. Um, I was I wouldn't have been surprised if they struggled in the group. I Going into the game, the way they struggled in the run up to the World Cup, and um, I I didn't know what to expect. I didn't think that they would, run the table. No illusions that they would win the World Cup or anything near it. But I'll be honest, I was surprised at how they came out the first couple of games, and I thought, oh man, maybe there's something here. But um, yeah, by the end of it, I'm just like, well, maybe we haven't advanced as far as we need to. What are your thoughts?
I would say that if you were, I think it's always a good idea to take a step back and just say, okay, what are the expectations before? What was the end result? And then you can look at the nuances in between. That round of 16 going out probably most people's expectations for this team. I think are the highest expectations. So probably looking at par in golf terms. Um, I think with everything around that last game that had happened, I think it ruined a lot of momentum that the US had. And I think that's more psychological than anything else because those first two games, the first game in particular, the US were electric. And I think a lot of people got on side with them, and like, including me. I was like, "Wow, this is very impressive." Paraguay are not a terrible team by any stretch of the imagination, and the way that the US attacked was with pace, it was with vigor, real energy. And I think as a host nation to get those first two games in was perfect. I had a couple of concerns about the way they started. First of all, I thought to myself, the nature of the way that they started is so full of energy that these tournaments are always about attrition and how deep your squad is and not blowing yourself out too early, which Harry Kane has tended to do for England actually on a number of occasions. And it worried me that as soon as they came up a team against a team that could keep the ball better in midfield, that's where the US would come unstuck. And honestly, I think the US were quite fortunate they played Turkey at a time when Turkey were already out because they played with the freedom that, but then they've got some very good ball playing midfielders in particular. And the Bosnia game, again, we're going against a team that just doesn't keep the ball in midfield. And I was like, okay, they're going to win this one. I think they're going to find it more difficult. But the way they performed against Belgium, I think I would, if I was a proper US fan, I'd be furious about how that game went. Because I remember winding the clock back to 2022. I think the US played a better team than that Belgian game in the round of 16, which was the Netherlands, and competed right to the end. I think the US's performance against Belgium, when they weren't playing a lot of their starting players, the US are pretty much at full strength, and the lack of energy and the lack of drive and the lack of commitment from those players, I think it really made me reassess whether this World Cup was a success for them. I think at best par, and I think Maurizio Pochettino needs to take a level of criticism for how the US played in that game. You can obviously say, and this I made this point actually talking to some friends before the game started that listen, Balogun has been your best player, absolutely the best player, but the way it's turned around, I don't think it's a disaster not to start him in that game because essentially the team had been preparing a week without him anyway. So at the last second, you've brought him back in. I know Pochettino's in a difficult position with that whole situation, but I think it might have got into their heads, but Pochettino needs to do a better job of motivating him in that game. And it was a real naivety to some of the way that the US played, and it's obviously the Belgians were inspired, but this is not a vintage Belgian team. They're not as good as the Netherlands when you played them 4 years ago, and I think if you're looking at comparison between those two tournaments, I think the US were better in 2022 throughout the whole thing than they were in 2026. That would be my assessment.
I wouldn't disagree. I thought, that last goal that Turkey got, that kind of, I think that really stung. And I think it ripped away a lot of the confidence um, subconsciously. And professional athletes, they're going to be confident no matter what. But I thought fighting back and getting a result would have been, you could just sense it, right? Maybe as
Yeah.
just as an American fan, you expect at some point the bottom to fall out when it comes to the World Cup. I mean, because they're not going to go, um, they're certainly not going to win the tournament this year. And I thought that Turkey game when they gave up that last goal, oh man! And I thought I you probably couldn't do it, but they should have made a statement and just not played Balogun or started him. I wouldn't have started him. I think you're absolutely right. It changed up how they were approaching the game. And also, whomever thought it was a great idea to change the red card, um, I thought that really threw them off. The U.S. needs to be the underdog. They have not had enough success to play from the front, right? To be the favorite. They need to be the underdog. Now, even if they're a better team, they need to be the underdog. And they took that away from them. I think I think they were, people thought they might be the favorite with Flo playing there, but I think they would have been better off without him. And if they just would have let him play, I think they would have had that grit and determination. And as it was, but I don't. It really threw them off. It's what it looked like. They did not look like the same team for whatever reason. And I kept thinking, watching the games, like, this team needs a Diego Luna. Um, you may not have watched Diego play a lot, but he
I've
plays with
seen
the
them, yep.
national team. And just that grit and someone that you could throw in for a specific occasion like that. And I'm sure there may be other MLS players, but Diego Luna is the one that played, 15 of the previous 17, I think, national team games before the final World Cup call up. And he was pretty much the face of the team in a lot of ways. I mean, he got his nose broken, he went back out there. And I think that game against Belgium was crying out for someone to get in there. Um, Maybe Berhalter a little sooner, or um, what's his name? The guy with all the controversy last time. What's the
Oh, Gio Reyna.
Reina to get in there a little earlier? But I thought, a player like Diego Luna who would just get in there with a chip, on his shoulder and start playing some football. That's They couldn't find it. I thought that Berhalter came in and brought a little bit of that, but it was too little, too late against Belgium. And yeah, I think you're right. I think they were better 4 years ago. And I don't. People saying that Christian Pulisic is the best American player that ever was uh, are just off by a million miles. The guy
Correct.
doesn't care. I
I
don't
just
think.
don't
I
think he's
don't.
that good. I think you've got better players in your team. I think Balogun is better than him. I think Tillman is better than him. I think Anthony Robinson is more important. I saw more of Weston McKennie in this tournament. Obviously, Pulisic was injured. I thought McKennie had a good tournament up until that last game. I think you can't rely on him in the same way that
No.
other just because he might be in terms of talent the best. Like, yeah, I would go back to England for a second. Just in terms of the comparison, people think that Phil Foden has been the savior of English football. He's never really done it in an England shirt. And Pulisic, there's a lot of expectation, and he doesn't look like that he can carry it. And that's not a slight on his
There.
character. It's
No.
a
No. No.
big deal. I think if you're looking, international football is almost like a different sport to club football. There's so much more pressure, and you need the right person in the right moment to do the right things. And I've never seen that from Pulisic on any level, and it's a shame. It's a real shame. But I genuinely think that Maurizio Pochettino was not the right person to bring you into this tournament. I think if I was a home tournament as well, I understand the superstar name, but and this obviously hurts from a national perspective. But if the US want to do better in the next tournament, they should do whatever they can to get BJ Callahan as their next manager. In my opinion, I think you need someone who knows the system, knows the players, knows how the US soccer network works, and can tactically lay
Yeah.
out a team. And I think he'll be in a good position for the US.
Yeah. They really shot themselves in the foot with all the Greg Berhalter stuff, and they just really made the World Cup as difficult as possible when it should have been a slam dunk on having a better tournament.
Yeah.
Not that, then who knows, maybe they go one game farther, but it's still one game farther. And you're probably left with optimism as opposed to confusion, kind of like Mexico. Mexico, of the three host countries, man, they look like they are ready to take off and
Hmm.
in the next 4 years. Canada, it's going to be Canada, but they didn't disgrace themselves in any way. But the U.S., I thought, um, could have done a lot better. And some of it, like I said, was the red card reversal, which would throw off anyone because you go from, it's kind of like all of a sudden, you're the home team, you're underdog, everybody loves America. We've been to Bucky's and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And now, you're getting special treatment, and now everybody's flipped a switch and they're all rooting for Belgium
I
because,
felt bad for the players and the manager because it wasn't their choice, was it? It
oh,
was
no.
like I don't like Maurizio Pochettino particularly, but I felt sorry for him in that situation because you put him in an impossible situation. The players, like Balogun, he has appeared incredibly well after this. Like some of the comments he's made and the interviews, I think he's handled himself brilliantly. And like whether it was in my mind, it wasn't a red card, but it wasn't the worst decision I've ever seen. It wasn't that egregious. I've seen much worse red cards given than that, but it wasn't a red card. But he shouldn't have been playing. Those are the rules. So it's yeah, it's difficult. It's difficult because I think it's a bit of a wasted opportunity. I think it's a bit of a wasted opportunity for the US because that wasn't a vintage Belgian team, and the, I think you went into that game probably underdogs, but that's okay. You're not going to. It shouldn't have been a 4-1 drubbing, and it could have been a lot worse, to be honest, as well.
And sticking on Pulisic, and then, like I said, don't want to run him down too much, but there are players um, that live for the big moment, and I think in his you know being nice, I think that a lot has been put on him that he didn't ask for. People just said, "Oh, he's the greatest. This is the generation. He's the best player that's ever played." Put on the U.S. shirt. I don't believe that for a second, but a lot of people do. And I think he looked like someone that wanted to get out of that game as soon as possible. Because I don't know how, they did say, a microfracture, but there are players that it wouldn't matter
Yeah.
what what happened. And then his comments after the game, no, I got time to rest, didn't do himself any favors. But I think that there are other players that would have found a way to stay in the game a little longer. And who knows, maybe they couldn't, but he just looked like a guy that was glad that the pressure was off and he could get out of the game.
Yeah. Agreed.
And maybe that's not fair, but that's kind of how I
It's
was.
optics, isn't it? That this is the whole point.
Yeah.
It's like you fans can only see what's in front of them, and those comments that he makes don't help that. I'm sure he didn't mean it in the way that he did, but like that's the whole thing is if you are the superstar, if you are the leader of this team, you have to be conscious about everything that you do. And if you look at, I think Spain is a perfectly, I think it's just the archetype example of this World Cup. This World Cup was about the superstars. Their young superstar Yamal was not as effective as he should have been, but they are the collective sum of their parts. They are strong everywhere. It's a mentality throughout the team, and the best team won. And I think America can be a better team that doesn't have to rely on the one superstar. I think America have got some very good players, and you build around those good players, but you don't put them on a pedestal. You keep them grounded, and you try.
Yeah, I'm going to say so. I think this is a little probably heretical, but I think that made that the national team needs more players from Major League Soccer. I mean, they had a bunch, they had some, but I think there's something to be said about being a leader on your team. And a lot of this generation that has gone to Europe, they're not leaders on their team. They're getting minutes, but they're not captains where they would be. They would probably be in Major League Soccer. Um, but if the opportunity to go overseas is there, yeah, take it. But they're not getting the. I've heard Landon Donovan who talked a lot about this, where in he was the players that were playing in his generation, they were leaders wherever they went. But a lot of them, they were in Major League Soccer. So I think there's something to be said for that. Just because you're good enough to go play or get some minutes in the Premier League, La Liga, Serie A, but if there's no pressure on you, how are you supposed to perform when it comes to the World Cup if you've never played in big games or been responsible to be the man, the player in big games, the Euros, wherever it is, the FA Cup, who knows?
Yeah.
And I think that's just kind of that grit, that tenacity, that desire, the understanding that playing on the national team actually means something. I think this generation, some of these young kids, maybe they're figuring it out, having the World Cup in the United States, how important it is. And it could be to play for the national team. But I just don't think that there's a lot on this current squad, this current generation that see it that way, right? It's like it's a burden. I got to go play for the national team. And they've already achieved their greatest goal of playing in Europe. So
Yeah. I agree, and I think
that's all.
that goes to the point of the hiring a coach within the MLS. I think it might be a smart move as well because culturally, you know someone who's coming through the system, and I think actually it shows that if you look at the two managers who were in the final yesterday, Scaloni and I can't remember the name of the Spanish manager, but he's come through the system in the Spanish National Federation. It's a bit more entrenched, and I think that is probably going back to England again. I think the hiring of Tuchel, I think a lot of people criticise it because there is no vested interest. It's not been built through the system, and I think that it's the roots of where your federation is goes right down to the bottom where the kids start playing. And I think to get cultural change to understand that has to be altered from the start, and that's what Spain do better than everyone else.
Great model to follow. And I always couch it too, because the United States is 100 years behind everybody. I mean, we're basically 30 years into having a real um, first a real league in Major League Soccer, and USL is doing well too, and trying to, who knows how it's going to happen with that, but we are just decades, light years behind everyone. So have to kind of put that in there. Everybody expects the United States to, we got these players playing over in Europe. We should be competitive, but we're 70 years behind.
Yeah. But you
So
can get there.
what?
You can get there. Like this
Yeah,
whole thing is like I think there has to be conversations about the grassroots level of the sport in this country. And other countries have done it and the US can do it as well, but there has to be aligned thinking, I think.
yeah, hopefully the U.S. Soccer Federation will figure it out. But a couple more things. Let's talk about. I was going through the schedule and trying to remember all the games that I watched because I watched a ton of them. Scotland, what a joy they were. I mean, if they had made it into the knockout rounds, they might have, drank all of the alcohol in the United States, not just Boston. What a great story. And we would have run out of um, orange cones. There have been orange cones everywhere. I love that story. Morocco was a great story. Egypt was a great story. I mean, they were so close to being the
Robbed
ones
against
that knocked.
Argentina.
Yeah, just absolutely robbed. Other and I like I said, DR Congo, Norway, and everyone. Erling Holland is everyone. Well, maybe half of the population has a the fairer sex has a new love for Vikings. But what about other teams like that? Is there what stands out that's not as serious and as we've been talking about? What do you remember the fun parts about this whole event?
Honestly, there's a, I have a sort of competitive rivalry with Scotland because obviously they hate the English and they have a big rivalry with us, but they do make it a very fun occasion in the World Cup, and I do like having the other British teams in these tournaments, mainly for the banter. Um, had to mute some messages from some Scottish friends of mine as soon as England got knocked out because they wanted to wave it in my face. Um, honestly, I think that Norway are quite a story in this tournament, not just for Haaland, but they were quite unlucky against England as well in the quarterfinals. I think them knocking out Brazil was quite the statement. I've really enjoyed it. I don't know. It's hard to. I think I keep going back to Cape Verde. I think it's just the most miraculous story. Um, I can't get over it, really. I think that when people look back on the World Cup in a few years' time, they are going to be the first team that everyone thinks of because of just some miraculous performances and holding the winners Spain to a draw. But yeah, I've been amazed that all the stadiums are basically sold out as well. Considering the ticket prices, it's people have been so dedicated and the fans and yeah, it's been incredible. I really enjoyed seeing the African teams do well in this tournament as well. I think those countries bring it something very, very different to the World Cup, and I quite enjoyed Australia being in it as well. Another one of England's rivals in lots of other sports,
Yes.
but their fans are great. There's a kind of a kindred spirit between England and Australia fans in lots of sports. But yeah, it's been a very bright and colourful World Cup with everyone's jerseys in the stadium as well. It's been truly a fantastic tournament. Quite sad it's ending, but back to
Anyone,
normal
any
scheduled
countries?
programming now.
I know. Any countries disappoint? You were surprised they disappointed? I know Korea and Son. I don't know if he was injured, but Korea did not have a good World Cup. Um, Germany didn't really stand out. I thought Croatia kind of got robbed against Portugal.
Yeah.
Uh, um,
Uh, there was a few disappointments actually. I thought Japan were quite disappointing considering the hype that they've been given. Portugal are the biggest disappointment. That is the best squad in the World Cup. And this fixation on Ronaldo and the manager Roberto Martinez, I've never seen anyone fall upwards as much as that guy does. And yeah, I mean, I knew they were not going to win it. The fact that they got knocked out in the round of 16, they were quite lucky to get that far, to be honest. Um, Brazil, very disappointing. Very disappointing with Brazil, considering the manager that they have got, Carlo Ancelotti, one of the all-time greats in football management. But I knew it was coming, that some of the players they selected, as soon as they brought in Neymar over a couple of the other players and some of the dross they've got in their squad, I knew they weren't going to win it. But losing the way that they did to Norway was pretty humiliating. I think Brazil are obviously they've won it 5 times, and Uruguay as well, actually a two-time winner. They were poor as well. Some really bad performances by some big names, but that's what they are now. They're names. The game has moved on in Germany as well. To be fair, Germany were robbed in that game against Paraguay. That VAR goal that was the goal was ruled out for offside in extra time, which would have led them to winning. Was should never have been disallowed. But they were poor. Germany are not the force they were, nor Brazil or Uruguay.
yeah. What about we could go on and on and on. But what about players? Ronaldo, probably his last. I thought it was disappointing. Maybe the assumption is that he forced their hand and he had to play, and Martinez didn't really have the gumption, the backbone to say, hey, you know what, Ronaldo, come off the bench for 20 minutes and be devastating, and lead the team that way. Maybe because there was something off there. And then you had Messi maybe in his last one. We'll see. Neymar, like you said, uh, he did nothing. And yeah, Brazil really struggled. But Luka Modric was sad. Probably his last go. There's some great players. Is Harry Kane going to be here 4 years from now?
First of all, going back to Ronaldo, I'm not convinced that's his last World Cup. The next World Cup is in Spain and Portugal. I think he is arrogant
Yeah.
enough to try and play to 45. Um, yeah, there's some players who at the end of the career. Neymar should have never been selected by Brazil. He didn't deserve it. Luka Modric is one of the most underrated footballers I've ever seen. True legend of the game. I don't think this is Harry Kane's last World Cup. I think he goes to the next one, and I think it's purely because England don't have many young, good strikers coming through the system. And what I think will happen is Jude Bellingham gets moved to the 9 position for the next World Cup, and I think Harry Kane is an option off the bench. That is, I don't. I think Kane has never been blessed with much pace. He's had the best scoring season of his career, the second best scoring season after Lionel Messi ever in all competitions. I think he will go to the next World Cup. I think.
He's a very underrated passer. Uh, Maybe I just don't pay enough attention, but I watched him play, especially when he was at Tottenham, my wife's favorite team. And he is a brilliant passer. And he doesn't seem to be incredibly selfish, which I really like. So,
Yeah, very good
I,
player.
I and then what about just overall for me? One of my favorite parts of the whole World Cup was watching all of the people that came from the different countries to the United States and finding out. It kind of reminded me maybe you're not as cynical and haven't been jaded. You are a relatively new American citizen. We appreciate that. But watching these people discover America, some of the things we take for granted, like free refills, um, ice, having ice everywhere. All of those, like I mentioned, Buc-ee's and the national parks and people just being friendly. Not that there other countries aren't friendly, but Americans just seem to be more outgoing, according to these posts, according to the internet. People are like, wow, they asked me how I was doing. They gave me a ride. Um, yeah. Did you have any thoughts on that kind of stuff? Was that surprising to you?
No, because that's the reason why I love this country and it's why I feel at home here. I think it's a good
Because of the
reminder.
ice or the free refills?
Both, and the air conditioning. If we're being honest, I think most people are going to find it very difficult to go back to sleep without
That's
air
true.
conditioning. Um, I think this is tournaments like this are a big reminder that we're all pretty much the same. We all just want to have a good time, meet some fun people, enjoy ourselves, and watch some entertaining sport. I think that maybe a lot of people forgot that is a key feature about America, that everyone is so great here. And it's maybe a reminder that whatever political situation people think they're in, they're not their leaders. People are just normal people who just want to be happy and enjoy themselves and have a good time. And I think a lot of people who came to the World Cup from different countries, I'm assuming most of them will come out of all three countries realizing that's the case with everybody. And hopefully it's a good reminder to everyone that America is a fantastic place and with a lot of amazing people here. So I yeah, as I mentioned the last time on the podcast when people were singing the US national anthem at the stadium, and I don't see many people singing it here. It was the first time I've seen it, and I was like, I feel this is like it's quite a good moment to remind everyone that we're all quite the same, and American people are just like everyone else who just want to be happy and live their life and enjoy themselves. I think.
Yeah, and I felt that, and I also felt I was excited for Mexico and Canada, especially Mexico. I mean, there was just nothing but great, fantastic stories coming out of just how wonderful people were in Mexico for the countries that played there. You mentioned England, but also was it Korea? Um, one of the yeah, it was just fantastic, and it really I had been kind of beaten down by all the baloney that you just can't Photoshop out every day that goes along with being in the United States right now. So it was a great reminder for me that uh, it is a great place to live, and I do appreciate and really do appreciate free refills. One of the things I didn't get to go to a game, but for Real Salt Lake, Bosnia and Herzegovina, they practiced in Salt Lake, so they practiced at the RSL Stadium, American First Field, the Riot, and I got to go and see. They invited the Bosnia Herzegovina fans to come and watch their country practice, and there was about 7-8 thousand people there that probably having a once in a lifetime experience, having their country practicing in their new hometown. A lot of folks from Bosnia in Utah that immigrated during the conflict there in the 90s, as happens. But I don't think I'll ever forget that, getting to see all of those people that were so excited that it was, and feeling like it was a once in a lifetime opportunity for them. There was just so much going on. So, do you have any other thoughts on finishing on all the positives that come out of this World Cup?
Yeah, it was the greatest tournament I've watched from start to finish, really. And this is the whole thing is that I keep when everything isn't so raw, it's still bitter about that defeat against Argentina. Is that actually the World Cup is about moments? Only one team can win it. When you've got so many different teams of high quality players, the chances your team are going to win it are quite slim. But actually, the memories that I have of watching some of those games will stick with me for the rest of my life, and especially the game. against Mexico in the Azteca. I don't think my heart rate has ever elevated to that point before really watching a football match. And I know it's disappointing that England haven't won it from my perspective, but first ever third place, our second best ever performance in a World Cup, and I had a really good time watching it, and that's what I remember. So yeah, even if your team doesn't win it, there's something that can be taken from it when you take a step back, I think.
What about all of the new soccer fans? With social media and just the way it's exploded, I've just seen nothing but people, especially in the United States. I would love for them to pick and go and watch their local clubs, go and pick an MLS club, and go watch support your local, however you feel about it. I think that's the only way soccer gets to the heights it needs to be in the United States, is when we support everyone. You can't just kind of skip over Major League Soccer, but that's probably an episode for another day. But there's a lot of people trying to pick new Premier League teams to follow or other teams. So I'll give you the opportunity to tell people why they should be Chelsea fans.
It's interesting actually. I'm going to be doing a new series on my TikTok account about guiding people which Premier League team to support. So that's a good little segue to that. Chelsea, he, the ultimate reason why you
Or
should be,
or not, direct them to whoever they need to go. But
yeah,
if you
yeah.
believe Chelsea is a good home for them,
It's never boring. Chelsea is never boring. It is sometimes a complete circus, but you get the highest of highs being a Chelsea fan and the lowest of lows all wrapped into one season pretty much every time. And it's it's just all about the thrill. It's all about the thrill with Chelsea. A lot of people hate us. It digs us in even further to supporting Chelsea even more. There's lots of Chelsea fan groups throughout the US as well. So wherever you are in the US, if you go travel outside of Salt Lake City, you'll find a Chelsea group somewhere you can go and watch the game with some great people. Um, and we have some wonderful players. We have some wonderful players who had a bad season last year, but if you're a fan of Cole Palmer still is the man, and he's one of the best players in the world to watch. So that would be my pitch. Um, and there's always lots of transfer activity as well. You always get the dopamine hit from signing way too many players for too much money. So if that's your thing for the young generation, definitely we are the club for you.
and I'm going to do my best. I tried to pick a Premier League team a long time ago, and nothing stuck. I'm not a bandwagon. I'm not going to go. I just couldn't go with the rich six, the big six. I didn't even know there was a big six, to be honest. But I tried to pick a couple of teams when they came up. I thought Norwich, no, Barnsley, Burnley, Swansea. None of them stuck for me. I thought, oh, they're new to the Premier League. And it just never stuck. And I am a big proponent of picking a lower league team. That would be my um, advice. Pick a lower league team, and maybe you get lucky, and maybe they move their way up the pyramid all the way to Premier League, like my Crawley Town is going to do
Yeah.
sometime. Maybe in my grandkids' lifetime, maybe not mine, but I'm going to do my best to kind of convert people to the lower leagues and get them to enjoy the Reds from Crawley Town. They've got they've got some American investors as well. So
Nice.
um, it was fun to see Burnley come in and play Real Salt Lake. They kind of got stomped on, but
Yeah.
the American owners there, the founder of Real Salt Lake, Dave Checketts, is an investor in Burnley, along with JJ Watt and his wife, who is from Utah and had a storied soccer career of her own through NWSL and then in the national team. So there's a lot of teams to pick. But if I would say if you don't pick Chelsea, pick Crawley.
Yeah.
And
It's the next logical step.
yeah, uh, 3 or 4 steps down. But
Yeah.
I love the lower leagues like nothing else when it comes to English football. So,
Yeah.
well, Simon, thank you for joining us. I love chatting with you. Hopefully, people enjoy our conversations, and hopefully, we'll have a lot more. Where can people find you?
Yeah,
as a
again,
reminder.
thanks again for having me on. It's been a really fun conversation, reliving the World Cup. It's been a bit of a fever dream, actually. But yeah, if you're interested in my Chelsea podcast, I do it with a gentleman called Manny, based in Nashville, Tennessee. We're Chelsea Against the World podcast at CATW podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Chelsea Against the World TV on YouTube as well. And if you're interested, as I mentioned, I'm going to be doing a guide to Premier League teams. So if don't have a team and you're interested in supporting a team, I'm going to do a full list of the 20 teams on our TikTok, the Real Football USA. You can find that on TikTok, Instagram, and also on YouTube as well. But yeah, those are all the channels. Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. And as everyone knows, you can find us at wherever you get your podcasts, RSL Random Fan Podcast. Please help do us a favor, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have a lot of content. We want more people to see it. Follow us wherever you get your social media. I happen to love TikTok, Instagram, and I love it too much, but please follow us, and we hope you enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much, Simon.
Thank you.